Moikka! Tervetuloa Mirlon Kaukana Kotoa podcastiin. Tänään meillä on vähän erilaisempi jakso kuin yleensä, koska mulla on vieraita Kanadasta. Ja sen takia tämä jakso tehdään englanniksi. So let's begin with you guys introducing yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Carissa Campbell. I'm the Assistant Executive Director of the Nova Scotia International Student Program.
My name is Elizabeth Teasdale and I am a Regional Director. So I represent one section of Nova Scotia.
So can you tell us where exactly is Nova Scotia? Because apparently a lot of people, including me, don't know exactly where in Canada that is. So
that's a great question. I think a lot of people, when they hear of Canada, they often think of the big cities, Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver. So Nova Scotia, we are located on the far east coast of Canada along the Atlantic Ocean. We are about 2 hours by plane from Toronto or New York and about an hour and a half or so from Boston. So yeah, we can be found on the far east coast.
Yes. So today I want to ask you a few questions about Nova Scotia and Canada in general, and specifically the school in there and how you would think it kind of compares to Finland. But yeah, so can you kind of start by telling me things about like Canadian culture and if there's things like specific to Nova Scotia?
Finland and Canada, and especially Nova Scotia, are like second cousins. There are so many similarities in not only our climate, but also in our core values. We tend to be very much liberal-minded and about the right of the human. And so, for instance, if you take that to our education system, we have looked to revise our education system in the last several years, and looking to Finland was an obvious first start because Finland obviously has one of the absolute best education systems in the world. I think that when we had the pleasure of visiting a school today, I could see the similarities where our curriculum is based on the science of how the brain learns. So gone are the days of sitting through long lectures. We know that people learn because they're social beings. They learn when they get to do lots of group work. They learn when they get to have lots of movement, lots of choice. And so our education system is something that we're very, very, very proud of. And we see that in the old days, it used to be a situation of I was the teacher and I had information and it was up to you to learn what I had to offer.
Yeah.
Now we look at it very, very differently, and it's our duty to meet the needs of the individual student. So whether that student has a neurodiverse challenge or a neurodiverse strength, whether they have personalities that are more introverted or extroverted, all of those pieces are what we take into consideration because our main philosophy in education is one of inclusion. And so our teachers learn and use teaching strategies that are culturally responsive because we have a very diverse population. But ultimately, if you wanted to know about schools and how we do schools, we have an expression, we Maslow before we bloom. So Maslow created a hierarchy of needs that a person needs in order to flourish. They need to be home, they need to have clothing, they need to have all their needs taken care of before they can ever think about focusing on learning and learning in a more meaningful manner. So our schools offer free lunch program, they offer free breakfast program, they in almost every school there are what we call carrying closets. So if a student needs a jacket, we have a jacket for the student because our belief is that if we level the playing field for students, then they have more of a chance to become educated to their fullest potential. Yeah. So we're very proud of the education system and the direction that we're heading in.
That's really impressive. I don't think that's really a thing in Finland. Obviously, like free school lunch has been for decades, but free breakfast, I feel like that's a newer thing that's kind of being implemented in some schools, not in my school, for example, but yeah. But
Right.
What did you call the clothing thing?
Oh, we typically call them carrying closets.
Carrying closets,
So,
okay.
for instance, there are some children who will come to school and they might have a knapsack full of groceries going home, or toilet paper, or whatever it is that their family or they need in order to have their needs met, so that they feel that the school is there for them.
Yeah, that's really nice. I feel like on like a global level, Canada is definitely also in the top schooling systems with Finland. I don't know if it's statistically, but that's like an impression that I've gotten, which is nice considering like if you're going on an exchange year, you can actually keep up like that schooling level and not come back and be like completely lost.
Behind and lost.
Yeah. Obviously it's different and you learn different things, but like in that sense, it's like you keep up that good school routine and stuff. Yeah. Then I feel like I would like to know more about just general things, like what's it like in Nova Scotia, like nature or like just the way of living, kind of.
Yeah, we do. We have a lot of nature for sure.
Yeah.
If you look at Nova Scotia on the map, we are a peninsula, so we're almost an island. We're only connected to mainland Canada by a very small piece of land. So everywhere you go in Nova Scotia, you are not far from the ocean. So a lot of our culture, a lot of the food we eat, the activities we do, and just our way of life, I think, are heavily influenced by the ocean, our climate as well, because of that proximity to the water. So we definitely have the beautiful beaches and access to nature for sure.
Yeah.
We're not a big population. The population of Nova Scotia is, I think, just a little bit over 1 million people in the entire province, with close to 500,000 being in the Halifax region, which is our capital city.
Yeah.
But the rest of the population, most people would live in towns along kind of fairly close to the water for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of similar to Finland, like as a whole. I feel like we have a few big cities, but then definitely a lot of smaller ones as well, which is nice. From your experience, like when exchange students come to Nova Scotia, in what kinds of places do they get placed? Like, is it mostly those smaller towns, and like, what's that kind of like?
So for us, we work with 65 high schools across the province. So we really do spread them out. So our students are sometimes in cities and sometimes in towns.
Okay.
What we do is we really look at their application to see what are their interests, what are their hobbies, what courses do they need to take. Are they an outgoing person? Are they a more introverted person? We really try to customize that placement to find them the best place for them to be in Nova Scotia.
And you feel like those needs. Yeah, do you feel like there is kind of like many different kinds of places for many different kinds of people?
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, I think we really have something to offer for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of brings me to my next question. Like, why would you think like Nova Scotia or Canada in general would be a good decision for like an exchange student, specifically from Finland?
I can see an exchange with Nova Scotia as a perfect choice for a student from Finland, especially if this is one of their first international experiences where they'll be on their own, because there are so many similarities, again, in our personalities, in our culture, in our climate, all of those things, that when I got off the plane, I felt at home. I'm a long way from home, but I felt at home because of the similarities. And so when a student leaves home, they leave their family, they leave their friends, they leave their language, they leave their school, their community, their country, they're incredibly courageous young people. And those of us who work with the program always say, we are president of your fan club because you're so courageous to be taking this on.
Yeah.
And so to me, because of those similarities, it would enable the student to be more relaxed and to be able to take in the experience the way they want to take it in. So, for instance, they wouldn't have as many challenges as students maybe, so for instance, perhaps from China, they wouldn't have as many differences to overcome, so they can get really focused immediately on what's most important to them, which typically is friendships,
Yeah.
right? And then experiences and fun experiences. So put me on the ski hills and let me go with my friends and I'll be happy, right? So I think that there's been some students who have said, well, the curriculum here is so different that I'm not sure if I have to worry about if I'm going to fall behind. So don't you worry. That's exactly the experience you're having is designed so that you can have the best opportunity possible. So I think that because there are so many similarities and so many of our students are away from home for the first time, that they would find it definitely a home away from home. And I am very experienced host family myself, and every student who leaves our home, we all agree, we are your Canadian family, and no matter where you go, we will be here if you ever want to come back, and you're just one of our children, and so we stay in contact with all of them, and it's a really joyful experience. And when one comes back and they have met the love of their lives, this mama wants to know and wants to be a part of that celebration.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great.
That's really nice. But I feel like that is one of the differences also, like between here and Canada, is like that big of like a social aspect, because here we tend to be a little like reserved, but compared to then Canada, where you're very open and like very kind of welcoming. I feel like, I'm not saying Finland's not welcoming, but it can feel like more of like a border kind of to cross to get
More reserved.
integrated. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
more reserved.
But one of the things in all the years that I've been involved in the program, and I'm sure Carissa could speak even more to it, we have an expression that we use. There is a hand for every glove, or a glove for every hand. We tell our students, be as honest and as thorough as you can when you make an application so that we can find the family that fits you. There's nothing about you that's wrong. So if you are a really shy student who absolutely loves to get into a good book and read, and we have a family for you.
Yeah.
If you are a really active student who wants to be on the go all the time and moving, we have a family for you. If you're into archery and literature and sailing and skiing, we have a family for you. So it's really the most important part, or I would say anyway, the most telling factor is how we make a good match. If you make a good match, then it's so much easier for the student. So that's very important to us.
Yeah, of course. I feel like it's hard to talk about, like, in general, a whole country as an exchange destination, because obviously, like what you said, there's so many different places. So I feel like people who are choosing their exchange destination, they often like choose from really like big picture things like climate or, you know, sites they want to see or something like that. So then what would kind of be like those, like what is the place you live in, like what's it known for, like what are those special to Nova Scotia things that you can experience, or like what it has to offer kind of?
I think Nova Scotia has so many different unique things to offer, and every community has something really special about it.
Yeah.
I think when students think of Canada, again, they often think of the big cities because that's kind of all they know.
Yeah.
But definitely Nova Scotia, I mean, we do have cities, of course, but it's certainly a smaller place. But there's so much going on within each community that there's always something for them to do. If they want to be busy, they can be as busy as they'd like to be. Like there is constantly, different festivals happening, different concerts happening, different sporting activities happening in the community. So we really do try to find them the best fit based on their application to find the perfect community and school for them. So something that's a little bit unique about our program is students actually don't get to choose where they go, which is a little bit different than some of the other programs. But the reason for that is I always say, if I was going to come to Helsinki, probably the first thing I would do is I would get on Google and I would start to Google about the city, and I would say, okay, I'm going to go to this school in this area. And, but really that might not be the best fit for me and
Of
my
course,
needs.
you can't know.
Right,
Yeah.
You can't know. So we like to say we're the experts in our Nova Scotian communities, and tell us all about you and we'll find the best perfect fit, the perfect community.
Yeah, that sounds nice. I mean, when I was applying for my exchange, like I don't know, I didn't really consider Canada, but I feel like it was a lot because I just didn't know. I was unaware of like everything. I had never met someone from Canada, or rarely even people who've been there, so I feel like it's like underrepresented. So that's why I feel like this is really important, or like really nice to have this discussion, because I mean, it's nice to let people know about all the different places that you can go to, and it's not like, oftentimes, this is obviously a generalization, but people want to go on high school exchange to the US, but obviously there's things that the US and Canada share in like high school experience and stuff like that I feel like more people should probably consider Canada as an option.
We're informed by our pop culture a lot, and so when we think about North America, we think about the movies that we see, for instance. But in Canada, we still have those things that are seen on the movies. We have the big yellow school bus, we have the proms, we have the fancy dresses, we have graduation, we have walkers, all of those things. But what we also are very proud of is that we have incredibly safe communities and schools. We are very, very, very lucky to live where we do. I was explaining to a student the other day that we feel so safe where we live that I have never seen, this is the truth, I have never seen the key to my home. It's never been locked.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? But they said, that can't be true. That's just true. That can't be true. And so this became the question. And, well, no, why would you ever lock your house? Why would you lock your house?
That's so inconvenient.
Someone might need something.
Yeah.
But, so we get the privilege of taking that for granted. We have the privilege of, I think we are the parts of America that people seek, but we're in general more liberal minded.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's really a big thing, like the safety part, especially coming from Finland when you're used to that. I wouldn't say to that certain extent that like you can leave your house unlocked, but still like you're coming from here used to that kind of a level of safety, and then you end up in the US and you don't really know. Like obviously you can't know, you just know all those fancy bits from the movies that you see, like you said. But then
we are so we're small, and which creates a very intimate community.
Yeah, in a good way.
So we know almost everyone in the community, by name, by so it's a completely different feel. So I always think about in terms of parents who are thinking about, I'm sending my child halfway around the world. What am I doing? And that's the one thing, we are so familiar that it's kind of like you're sending your child to a whole bunch of mamas, right?
Yeah.
It'll be different, but the one thing that is guaranteed is that there's a whole lot of love, and there's a whole lot of interest, and there's a whole lot of support.
Yeah.
And that comes not only from the host parents in the program, but the teachers really and truly believe that relationships are the way to educate.
That's really nice. That's like, I feel like that's combining the best parts of all of that. Like what more could you ask for, honestly? Yeah. I don't know. To me, it sounds like perfect destination, especially when it's, like you said, like your first time going international by yourself. And like for the parents aspect as well, like any parent who's listening to this, like probably thrilled to hear the fact that like, oh, like there's this place that's like the same exchange as you'd hope, like this high school experience, but then it's like so safe and so just
Well, and the schools are not huge, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a daunting experience for them. And what I say that to parents, but what I say to the kids is, and we have snow days.
yeah, we don't. That's a big difference, I guess.
That's something that our students always get such a great kick out of. Do you mean there's a chance we won't have school tomorrow? It's like, wow.
Yeah, but I mean, that is
Yeah.
new. No one here would ever think of that. You know,
Yeah.
we have this saying where everyone's parents says like, oh, like when I was your age, I used to ski to school, no matter if it was like freezing and
Yeah.
snowing so
Yeah.
hard, I would
Yeah.
just ski, like it would be fine. So
Yeah.
like, stop complaining. But
Yeah.
so that's like a dream to anyone coming from here. Yeah. Is there kind of some things that you would like to say or advertise about your place, your program, or something?
I think just that we're waiting for you in Nova Scotia. We're looking forward to seeing everyone in Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
It's a very welcoming place, very friendly place, and we'd be very excited to welcome any students from Finland.
Yeah. Also, I forgot to mention, you're in Nova Scotia that you do like the shorter programs as well, so.
We do. So our main program, we offer 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, which is 1 semester, as well as a full year program, which is 10 months. But we do offer short-term programs that are anything that's less than 3 months. It's typically for groups of students, but we sometimes take individual students for short term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a good option also, like the 3-month thing, because I don't know, that's not like a common thing. I haven't heard a lot of people do that, but I feel like it's nice that people know about that, because I know there's many people who miss up on the chance of an exchange year or an exchange semester, 3 months, whatever, just because they're like, oh, that's so long, or I don't want to like be held back in my studies here or something like that. But then there's always like those kinds of options that aren't offered in many other places. So I feel like that's really nice.
Absolutely. And we often have students as well that it will come for a short time, maybe 3 months, and decide to extend their stay.
Yeah.
That happens a lot, which is a good thing, I think.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, so there is always that option. Students come with the mind of, I'm going to try it out and kind of see how it goes, but they fall in love with Nova Scotia and then want to stay.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Our province is small, but being in North America, we're settled by waves of immigrants from various countries, a lot from Europe. So even though we're small and the population is not that great, our culture is very diverse. And I say that because there really is someone for everyone. So for the student who says, oh no, they're too outgoing and I want someone who's quieter, I want a quieter home, all you need to do is indicate that.
Yeah.
And that's what we find for you. Some people want to live with a great big family. Well, I have that for you, but I also have, we have families in all shapes and sizes and personalities. So yeah, there is something for everyone for sure.
That's great. If that's all that you want to say, that's all of my questions as well. But yeah, it was really, really nice to hear about all of this because obviously, like I said, very new to me as well. I'm very new to Canada and especially Nova Scotia. But yeah, definitely something that should be or deserves to be shared and like told to future exchange students. Like that's definitely a place to consider.
Well, then you'll have to come and visit us.
Yeah, I definitely will.
Yeah.
But thank you for coming.
you.
And
Thanks for the
speaking.
opportunity.
Of
Thank you very
course,
much.
it's really nice.